It's Chris Radievsky, with President of the Friends of the Royal Alberta Museum Society. We now have sound. Thanks for tuning in with us today. Very excited to be here at the Royal Alberta Museum, behind the scenes, checking out with 3 FRAMS staff here today who are doing a really cool project around some photogrammetry. I worked really hard to even pronounce that word, so without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our RAM curators here to give us our first FRAMS virtual talk and tour.
Hi everybody, thanks for joining us today. I'm Julia Petrov. I'm the curator of daily life and leisure at the Royal Alberta Museum. And today we are taking lots of detailed pictures to create a 3D model of one of the objects in my collection, which is one of the oldest dresses we have in the collection. It's an electric blue dress from 1870 that was first worn as a wedding dress on January 13th, 1870 in Guelph, Ontario by a woman named Margaret Hanlon. And then her descendants went to Alberta, settled around Towfield, and then the dress was worn again in 1967 by her great-granddaughter. And then what's really cool is that the great-granddaughter's own granddaughter, so I don't even know how many greats we're getting into, 3 times great-granddaughter of Margaret Hanlon, wore the dress again in 2015. So we are trying to document this dress so that people can play with a kind of 3D model online. And then we're going to be able to do some conservation treatment on it. So I'm going to pass you over to the wonderful lady who's going to be doing our photography. She works with our collections management staff, Brittany, who can tell us all about what photogrammetry actually is.
Hello. So basically what we're doing is we've got the object set up very nicely here. And then I'm taking a bunch of photos in a circle around it. And we're going to be overlapped from different heights. Here, I'll move that for you. And provided I've done the job properly of taking good photographs, what we do is we put it through software on a computer. And it can actually calculate through triangulation of different points on the object in the photographs to determine where the camera was when it took that photo. And then it can determine the relative distance of points on the object in virtual space. With that, it creates what is called a point cloud, so it's basically thousands to millions, depending on the object, of points within that virtual space. And if I'm happy with that, I tell it to create a mesh, so it connects all of those points with lines and faces and creates the model that we would look at online. So it's actually a fairly intensive process, but not too complicated on my end, just for taking good pictures. But yeah, this technology's actually been around for quite some time. It's just we're getting into really good computer software now, so it can do a lot more than just measuring things on different photographs. But I'm gonna pass you over to Brenna now to actually talk about the conservation work she's gonna do.
So as part of the history of this object, the family that owned it altered it quite substantially. So if you look at the dress over here, originally it would have been in 2 parts. Even though we call it a dress, it would have been, the 2 parts wouldn't have been interchanged with other garments. They would have been worn together, but there was a separate skirt part and a separate bodice part. And at some point in its history, they attached what looks to be a bodice from a slip onto what was left of the skirt, and they removed the original waistband. So there's been a lot of alteration happening. If you want to go around to the front, it's a bit of a mess, to be gentle. So we really want this object to have a life in this museum. We want Albertans to come and be able to see it in person, to appreciate the vibrant color and the scale of a 19th century dress. But it's really difficult to do that with the condition that it's in right now. You can see all this loose stitching. It's quite delicate and a bit haphazard. So my intent is to stabilize it in such a way that we can put it on display for a decent amount of time so that people can come and see it, and so that it doesn't get damaged through that display. So we're probably going to have to make some tough decisions about how much of this original alteration that we take out. But I think right now it can't stay the way it is like this. So I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to have a huge visual impact once we do get through that project. And I'm really hoping that in the future Albertans can be able to come see this in person, and I'm looking forward to getting into it. So that's the conservation aspect of this project.
Thanks, Brenna. Brenna is our textile conservator here at the RAM. So again, this is just a before shot. So hopefully people will be able to zoom in, see the state that it was in when it was altered to wear for 1967. And then once Brenna is able to conserve it and stabilize it, we'll be able to take some more images and then bring it back to a state where it can be displayed, and also where people can play with the object as it might have looked in the 1870s when it was originally made, and they will be able to look at that online. So again, the colors are really beautiful. It's an amazing survival, and it also speaks to some of the history of the country and the province. So we're really happy that you're able to come here and enjoy it virtually with us today.
So thanks very much for tuning in for our first virtual talk and tour. Sorry for the technical difficulties, but we're hoping to do a lot more of these in the future. Thank you to our 3 RAM curators and staff here today for telling us a little bit about photogrammetry and what's going on behind the scenes here. As you can see, I know the museum is closed right now to the public, but at the same time there's lots going on behind the scenes. So thanks for tuning in, and look forward to our next one. Thank you.